Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing some tomatoes in pastel. So I'm going to transfer my image by adding some pastel on the back of my printed sheet. You can do this the same as if you did your sketch on paper or whatever. Put that on there. I'm going to rub it out with a little bit of a makeup sponge just to make sure it's got a good coating on there. And then we're going to flip the paper over and we're going to go over it with a pencil. And what this does is it leaves just the chalk outline on your board. In this case, I'm using an Ampersand board that has a sanded finish on it, so it's a nice rigid board, and it just really holds the pastel really nicely. You don't want to push too hard on your pencil because you can flatten, that lovely texture that's on the board. So you just want to push hard enough just to get that chalk outline on the surface that you're working on. And I'm just going to go over just a few outlines. This is mainly for position, for proportion, and just a basic guideline. I'm not going to put every little detail on there. You don't really need it. And when you start to go in with the pastel, you can lose that outline anyway. So just, put for positioning enough detail to represent what you're trying to do. So you can vaguely see just that little bit of outline. And then I'm going to start to go in with my pencils, and that's really going to give me a better representation to work from. Now, I always like to start a little bit lighter and brighter than what I think my finished product is going to be. So right now I'm just going to color map. So I'm starting to go in with some oranges and then some reds, and then we're going to get deeper and deeper as we go. But we just want to get some color down on the board at this stage because it's a lot easier to blend pastels when you have a nice little base layer down on the paper. So I'm just going to start mapping in all my colors and my highlights, and we're going to get a nice little blend. I'm blending with like a little sponge, or you can use the soft tools, which are kind of like a makeup sponge, and you can blend all that together. So we just want to get a good representation of where all our colors are going, and we're not really getting into all the detail yet, just where the values change and where our values are. Now I'm going to start to go in with a little bit of a black background because it's going to help us distinguish our values and what needs to be lighter or darker. And by putting that black around there, it's going to help us see where we need to punch up our highlights or where we need to blend the tomato into the background, because this is a black background piece. So I don't do the whole background, and the reason being is you can easily muddy up all of your work. If you put all of the black background in first, you're going to drag it around with your hand, and it's really going to muddy up all of those beautiful red tomatoes. So I just put a little bit around the area that I'm working on just to get the values correct. And now we're going to start to go in with some of our details and punch up our highlights. Now the beauty of pastel is you can put light over dark or dark over light, but I like to keep the brightest areas bright from the beginning. If I put black over what was supposed to be a highlight, it's going to be really difficult not to get a muddy look. You want a nice pure bright highlight. So I usually leave those blank in the beginning, and then I keep going over, and you can go over with your white stick pastel. I find that the whitest of the whites are the Prismacolor stick pastel. It's whiter than the Carbothello, and you get a nice really bright highlight. And if you need to keep punching that up, if something smudges or whatnot, you can go over with that stick pastel, and it gives you a nice coating and a nice bright white highlight. So I'm continually going over each area, and I'm kind of blending in between my layers. I am onto my detail phase now, so I don't need to blend as much as I did in the beginning. I still am going to blend those tomatoes into the background a bit to get our shadows, because the shadow kind of the tomato goes into the shadow, so we can do that around the outside. I'm not going to mess too much with all of where my details are, because we're getting all of those little seeds and the different variations of color in between there. And I'm trying to be mindful to give myself enough shadow where the tomatoes meet, where the one tomato's behind the front tomato, you want it to be a little heavier shadow there, and then as it moves out towards the light, it's going to get brighter. Now you could have started with a black background paper or a darker background paper. That would be fine. That might make your life a little easier than starting with white. I found that for a tutorial, it's easier for you guys to see the colors and how I start when I start on a white background. But if I was just doing this for a client or for a commission, I would probably have started with a a black background paper already. It just makes it easier to build up the values. So here you are seeing me. I'm almost done with my details. I'm putting in my black background, and you can see I'm really working at it to get a real good coverage of black. So I'm using the Sennelier sticks, which are really super black, super pigmented, and super creamy, and it just gave me a really nice rich background. So now we're just tweaking all of our final details and deepening up anything that we need to tweak a value, make it darker or make it lighter, and we're going to be on our way. You can catch the full version of this drawing on my Patreon channel. The link will be in the description below. For a small monthly fee, you get the full drawing, and there's many drawings on there you get from start to finish. I give you the materials list, the reference images, and the sketch outline to start from, and then you can draw with me in real time on my Patreon. You would make my heart so happy if you guys would leave me a comment in the comment section below. You can ask me questions or just a comment, or leave me a suggestion for a video you'd like to see me do. I love hearing from each and every one of you, and I do get back to all of you. Thanks for joining me, and happy art.